You're listening to Rainbow Wisdom Radio with your host, Brad Johnson, on the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rainbow Wisdom Radio with our second official broadcast this week. So we're going to be talking about a really exciting topic, and that's going to be about the universal laws, primordial substances to life. So again, we're going to have a really great discussion here tonight on Rainbow Wisdom Radio, hosted here through the Enlightenment Evolution Network. So thank you everybody here who's tuning in live and listening into the show. There will be some call-ins that will make a little let me try that again. There'll be some call-ins that we'll make available at the end of the show around that time. So if you guys would like to call in, the call-in number is 347-215-8586. And again, that'll be around the latter half of the show, where we'll be taking some calls, and I will be channeling Adronis and just taking some anonymous questions, so to speak. So feel free to call in if you like. There's going to be some announcements here before we get into today's show. So one of the announcements is the free psychic development workshop that is coming up here. That's going to be on Saturday, May 16th, starting at 2 p.m. Pacific time. This is, again, just a free psychic development workshop where you're helping to open up your own psychic abilities, learn more about intuition, being able to work together with certain forms of intuitive and psychic experiments as well, too. So it's going to be a really fun, exciting class, and, of course, it's free. So feel free to go to realitywhisperer.com, and on the home page there, you'll see the link where you'll be able to register for free for the free psychic development workshop. So again, that's coming up on Saturday, May 16th at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We also have the Adronis and Aradif dual channeling experience that's going to be talking about galactic community. So this is going to be coming up on Sunday, May 24th, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is going to be a really exciting event. We're going to have a simultaneous channeling. So I will be channeling Adronis, and Rob Gauthier will be channeling Aradif, and we'll be channeling at the exact same time. And so there will be this really almost kind of like a round table discussion, with two entities, so to speak, talking about galactic community, what galactic community is all about, what's the common form of protocol, so to speak, of what's happening right now, a lot of the behind-the-scenes assistance that they're doing. It's really going to be a very, very fascinating topic. And, of course, you guys will be able to ask questions live to both Aradif and to Adronis. So feel free to tune into that. Again, you can go to realitywhisperer.com, go to the homepage, and you can go ahead and register for that particular event as well, too. Again, it's called Adronis and Aradif Galactic Community Duo Channeling Experience. Also, being able to go to Reality Whisperer, there's some really exciting private sessions that you can have one-on-one with Adronis. Adronis is someone who I have been channeling now for well over 6 years, and the information just gets bigger and brighter and better. Every single time that I channel him, his information truly is amazing. As we are on the Enlightenment Evolution Network, no doubt there's been a lot of people that have heard of Treb and Aradif themselves, and Rob does a phenomenal job being able to channel those two particular forms of entities, as well as some more. And of course, Adronis just adds to that mix. So if you are very much interested in being able to have a private session with Adronis, really there's no topic off limit. So that's something you can check out as well. We also have the Adronis 4-phase courses that are available online through realitywhisperer.com. And this basically includes 12 hours of audio-based information that teach you how to channel, teach you how to perform energy healing, learn about telepathy, out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming, developing yourself a lot further, looking into connecting with higher self, and a lot more. So feel free to check that out. That's also on realitywhisperer.com. So this is basically just the announcements for today. So again, feel free to check out my website there, and you can look more into everything that's going to be available there, especially with the events coming up. Very exciting. So we're going to go ahead and start today with Rainbow Wisdom Radio, the Universal Laws, Primordial Substances to Life. So as we look at the universal laws, there has been a lot of talk pertaining to the universal laws of saying, okay, well, what are the universal laws of being together within reality? Well, there's basically a small list here that's compiled that we're going to take a look at tonight, and that starts with the law of free will, the law of equivalent exchange, the law of karma, the law of attraction, and within the law of attraction, the law of catalyst, also the law of love, the law of light, and the law of cause and effect. Now, some may be asking, well, Brad, what about the law of one is all is one? What about now and forever? Well, those in that sense aren't really laws. There is, again, a lot of particular communication relating to, that there is the law of one and that there is the law of now and forever. You can certainly see them in that way, but basically, as I've seen them, they're more so understandings rather than laws. So rather than when we see laws, we look at the idea of something that may be bent or bypassed, and that nothing in regards to the understanding of now and forever, or the understanding of one is all and all is one, those can't be bypassed. That is basically the absolute relativity that those two understandings come together. So I refer to those two particular points as the understandings of now is forever and the understanding of one is all is one. And so with those two particular forms of understandings, these laws are representing primordial distortion. Now that in that sense kind of is a paradox in that way. So when we're really looking at the idea of free will, this is basically going to be the very first law that we're going to take a look at. We're going to just look into the examination of what free will is all about and discover, is this a law that can actually be bypassed? The answer is yes, it can, but it's not easy. When we're looking at the idea of what free will is, and this again is something that may often come up through psychic sessions, intuitive sessions, channelings, etc. When we look at the idea of free will, the idea of free will itself is that it exists within a state of confusion. In order for us to actually have free will on this planet, we need to be confused. So it's basically unawareness. So the more that we are able to gravitate pertaining to more about what we are able to do by following a heart path, by aligning ourselves, representing the idea of where we want to go within life, just being able to get to understand ourselves a lot more, we're actually being able to bypass this free will. It is actually possible to bypass confusion, but it requires such a form of devotion to following the heart, to really understanding that the heart is your best ally. It's here to guide you, and that it's not so much in the idea of choice. Now, this just may be very, very confusing to us as we live together in modern society, that when we look at the idea of free will and saying, well, how can that possibly be bypassed? I have a job, I have to work my 9 to 5, I have to pay bills, I have to take care of my family, et cetera, et cetera. And that's true. You absolutely may have such responsibilities like that, and this is continuing to operate within a grid of selection, a grid of choice, a grid of confusion. So by having choice is the allowance for us to have confusion. So in order for us to choose something, we need to realize that confusion has granted us the ability of choice. And this is representing the idea of free will. So the free will to make a decision, the free will to choose, the free will to decide, should I take path A or path B or path C? What would best serve me? This all comes together that, again, when you follow the heart path, you are moving into a state of 100% unconditional trust of yourself. In all honesty here, it really represents the idea that the only person you ever need to trust in life is yourself. There's always going to be really wonderful people that are going to be connecting with you, and you can absolutely have wonderful trust with them because they have really demonstrated such great energy with you, and they are a part of you, absolutely. But they're not making the decisions for you in life. You're the one making the decisions within your life. So if you realize that you have gotten so used to connecting with your heart that you have spent a lot of time working together with your inner work, working together with your heart, and actually being able to know that you can expand your horizons and trust yourself in regards to the decision-making process, there's no longer a decision. So basically what you're moving into is beyond free will into a particular form of divinity, moving into the heart path, I guess you could say in the best way, is that when you're starting to move into the heart path, this bypasses the degree of free will because you're no longer feeling that you are confused. To be confused is to really question your own trust. And so if you are able to devote a great deal of your time, a great deal of your life, to really being able to understand the heart and realizing the heart is not steering me wrong. It's placing me in the areas that I feel represent myself, that serve myself. And that really represents, again, kind of looking into service of self or service of others. And it really just starts with the self. When you really start to understand that everybody else around you is a catalyst, which again goes into the law of catalyst, which we'll be talking about shortly, then you realize that everybody that I'm just associating with is just how I see myself through their personality construct and being able to look back at myself through them. And so as I understand this, I realize that the only person I'm ever interacting with on this planet is myself, because all I can do is manifest the perspective of others that represent some type of alignment in regards to how I see myself through them. And again, this is moving yourself into that state of trust. And so as you move further into that state of trust, you are able to bypass free will. So it's basically becoming unconfused and moving more into trusting, following the heart path over the idea of free will, moving into that state of divinity together. It's in that sense also could be kind of like the idea of the law of symbiosis, because you're no longer enacting yourself through the idea of self. You're moving yourself now through the idea of working together in the greater whole. You're understanding that you are a sum of parts. You're part of the whole that makes up the equation to reality. And so now you are working together in reflection through that unconditional trust you have. Again, this is not easy. This is something that takes a devotion, a great devotion into life to work together. I'm not even close to that area myself. So it really does take a great amount of time and a great deal of mental discipline to really being able to live through the heart. And you will, in that sense, move yourself into a transcendence past that which represents modern society. Okay? So that's kind of just giving a bit of an overview of the law of free will. Let's take a look at the law of equivalent exchange. All right, well, there are some Full Metal Alchemists in here. The funny thing as well, too, like before I even watched that show, I was very much aware of the idea of exchange and looking into the idea of the feeling of balance as well, too. And I said, yes, this is really what it's all about. And then I started to tune into this nice little show called Full Metal Alchemist. And I like the Brotherhood one. I think that's my favorite one. And, of course, their whole show is basically based on the law of equivalent exchange, right? And they really bring a great deal of clarity into this. What I love about that show is it's very accurate pertaining to equivalent exchange. It's very accurate pertaining to alchemy. And so that's, again, one of my favorite shows. But this is an actual law. This is indeed an actual universal law pertaining to equivalent exchange. Now, basically what they say in the show is, when you watch like the opening title sequence, that in order for one to, let me see if I can go back to that, the law of equivalent exchange, in order for one to achieve something of equal value must be given, right? That is completely true. All right, this is where a lot of people get confused. The feeling is that, again, as we're operating within free will, as long as free will exists, we have equivalent exchange. Equivalent exchange is only valid within free will. If you're beyond free will, equivalent exchange does not apply. But as long as you're operating within free will, equivalent exchange represents the idea that if I feel that I am down in the dirt, that I've kicked dirt in my face, that I'm going through all of these particular forms of negative base fluctuations, and I'm attempting to attract something that represents a positivity to reinforce that, if I cannot allow myself to harmonize with the pain that I am going through, equivalent exchange will not allow me to birth that particular opportunity of actually having positive reinforcement come into me. So basically what this is saying is that if you truly want to have liberation, if you want to bring forward positive resolve relating to these situations, you need to make your own aspect pertaining to negativity malleable, which means that you have to soften it. You have to allow those particular shadows to come into your space and being able to talk to you and allowing this form of openness. So again, acknowledging that these shadows exist, forgiving these particular aspects pertaining to shadows, and being able to achieve liberation. When you are able to achieve liberation together, equivalent exchange therefore grants that particular energy to be purged from your being so that other energy can now come forward that represents positive reinforcement. And of course, eventually bringing the entire circumstance, the entire theme of the equation of whatever it may be into balance. That's equivalent exchange. So again, what you are giving up in that sense is the idea of a negative belief system. What you are applying in regards to that which represents an attainment of something more positive is that of the positive reinforcement, right? So being able to give up, it's kind of like looking at a cup of water, right? So if we want to fill up a cup of water with clean water, if we want to fill up a clean glass that has dirty water in it, then we need to be able to empty out that dirty water first in order for clean, fresh water to come together. So we really have to look at ourselves as this vessel, as this clean glass that is now starting to get mucky or maybe oily kind of water in it, and it's filled right to the brim. And it's, okay, I just want to go ahead and bring some positive reinforcement into myself. You can't. Equivalent exchange is basically telling you that you value every single drop of that oily, mucky water. So how are you able to perform equivalent exchange to the point of what you want that benefits you, right? You need to look into that particular glass and realize what you're holding on to realize that all of that mucky, nasty water does not serve you. So now you can empty it out. And realizing I have purged that energy. I have transcended that. I no longer see myself into the energy of what that mucky, yucky, disgusting water represents. So as I have emptied my vessel, now I'm able to bring about the energies of positive reinforcement, bringing in that positive energy of that clean water, and I'm just remembering to continue to gulp that down. So now that the glass attempts to stay as empty as possible, as much as possible, and an equivalent exchange will start to continue to work because now I'm working together on what serves me, and equivalent exchange will only work together in regards to me offering a service of a benefit that will deliver a benefit because all I'm seeing myself as is benefit. So that's the particular idea in regards to how equivalent exchange works. So we're looking into the idea of balance, that everything really does come at a price, and that price can certainly be positivity attracting positivity and attempting to bring things together into balance. But as long as we still see ourselves as that mucky glass and being able to feel that there's no way that I'm going to be able to empty that glass because this is the beliefs that I've placed upon myself so harshly that there's nothing that I could consider to be a counter validity to allow that glass to empty, or at least be in that sense just half full rather than the idea of completely full. Just being able to start one drop at a time or just little bits at a time and being able to empty a lot of that muck out of that glass and basically being able to bring in this positive, reinforced, clean water and being able to actually have a transformation take place and realizing that the positive energy that's coming forward is now helping to envelop a lot of that particular form of oily, mucky water. And so now that the glass itself is starting to become less diluted, but it's being able to realize that if I can still keep that glass empty, if I can keep that glass completely devoid of that mucky substance, then everything that's going to be in my life will serve me. So as long as you are willing to bring service into yourself and fill that together, equivalent exchange will continue to benefit you in regards to how you see yourself in that light. So you can look at the idea of the glass always being filled up with clean water and always being willing to drink it down. Okay? So equivalent exchange represents that. And now we'll take a look at the law of karma. Well, okay. Is karma and equivalent exchange the same thing? In a certain way, but there are differences in that way. Karma simply represents that of belief. That's the whole thing relating to karma. As long as we feel that we are believing ourselves that, oh my goodness, I can't do something right, I can't attract money, I can't attract finances, I can't attract a good relationship, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, then that's basically the belief systems that we're putting together within ourselves. Karma just represents the idea of what we have bombarded ourselves with pertaining to limitation. It is the borders and the barriers that we have placed upon ourselves to feel this is as far as we can tread, this is as far as we can go. Karma is in no way permanent. It's not. The whole idea, again, is that when we're looking into the idea of karma, we may say, oh my goodness, I must have jinxed myself for 7 generations, and that there's no way for me to beat this karma. Yes, there is. It's being able to look inside yourself. It's being able to realize what are these particular beliefs that you're holding on to, because beliefs are one of the most overrated things there are. So again, it certainly can help to look into positive beliefs, but those positive beliefs aren't meant to be there for a long time. They're meant to just basically work to counteract the energy of negative karma, right? So when we're looking at positive karma, we're looking at positive belief. When we're looking at negative karma, we're looking at negative belief. And the whole idea here is being able to rebalance the feeling of negative-based karma with the degree of positive-based karma so that there is the law of equilibrium. So we're basically balancing ourselves together. So rather than looking at the idea that I'm so filled with karma, I just can't do anything right. You know, every job I try to go to, it blows up in my face. I can't seem to get along with people. I have all of these illnesses. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? The first thing we want to do is when we realize we have all these problems, we try to look externally for answers. And that's just not how it works. You know, you can have amazing forms of technology, you can have great forms of medicinal practice, etc., and they may help to a certain degree. But basically what's going to happen is if there is a karmic connection pertaining to an illness that you have, that illness is only going to manifest itself over and over and over again in different forms because the body is telling you to harmonize yourself. This is reality. This is exactly how we're built. This is what we are. We are mind, we are spirit, we are soul, and we are encapsulated together within a body. And that our body is basically representing this energetic gauge to let us know what areas are out of harmony. So we can certainly look into the idea of certain forms of medicinal improvements or technological improvements. And again, as much as this can help in certain ways, it's not the answer. The whole answer is really being able to go into the source relating to what that particular form of disease is, what is causing that particular disease. And a lot of it just has to do with psychological damage, with the idea of emotional imbalance, with the idea of mental impairment. And we're not allowing ourselves to see what the universe is attempting to show us. Our dreams are basically telling us what is happening to us all of the time. And so if you are still looking to develop your ability to look into dream states, into interpretation in that way, and you're just not too sure of where to begin, well, fortunately, that's something that I can teach as well, too. So I can definitely help you in that particular area as well, too, to help interpret your dreams or to help you to become a dream interpreter yourself. And that's a great thing, to really looking into the idea of the type of quote-unquote karma that you have placed upon yourself. A lot of the times that we come into these lives, we are basically attempting to remedy thousands of lifetimes worth of karma within one life. This is basically where we are. This is how our reality functions. We are going through such an acceleration of energy right now that hundreds of lives or even thousands of lives worth of karma contained in different forms of dimensions are anchoring together within us. Some of them basically may represent the idea of negative-based connotations of karma. Some of it can represent positive-based, because basically we're going through this smorgasbord. We're going through this legion-based consciousness. We're going through what Adronis refers to as an amalgamation effect. And this is basically bringing in a contingency of all these energies of different perspectives that have existed on Earth or in different dimensions and on different planets and different galaxies, etc., and just starting to return to us. Why is this happening in this life? Because we are going through a transdimensional shift. We have an acceleration of energies where all of this is basically like brewing a stew. And this gigantic stew is allowing all of these particular forms of magnetics to be harmonized during this particular type of cycle. And so this is what's happening to us. We're getting all of this rushing of energy. We're getting all of this huge alignments to harmonize with, because this is just simply the time of the cycle that we are living with in order for this to happen, so that we can actually start to perform what is necessary to bring ourselves into a higher state of alignment. And so that represents a degree of balance. Again, this is something that we just really need to take into consideration. When we continue to live within the modern life, there's just a lot of times where we feel we can't deal with this. I can't deal with the law of karma right now. I can't handle that. I got bills to pay. I got kids to feed, et cetera, et cetera. We want to give every particular form of excuse in the book. Completely understandable. You have, a lot of particular demands on your time. You have a lot of particular demands. But all you really have to do is start off small. Spend at least 10, 15, 20 minutes for yourself each night. However that needs to be done, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and being able to reflect upon your day. This is why it is so beneficial, and why I tell a lot of my students and a lot of my clients, look into getting a diary. Get a diary and document your day, and just be able to reflect in regards to everything that the day has brought you. Is it something that has been positive? Has there been some great transformation today? If you notice that there's been some challenges coming up, etc., take 10, 15, 20 minutes just being able to write in the diary. Then take an extra few minutes to be able to do a meditation. Check in with yourself. And again, this is the whole idea. And the honest understanding here is that man was never meant to be externally distracted for as much as we do, for as much as we have been distracted. Our whole purpose has been to function together within nature. That yes, we do have an external reality. Yes, that we have this projection. But the whole idea is that this projection is consciously talking to us all the time. This is the reality body. This is why we're here on this planet. It's not to feel that we have to constantly indulge and distract ourselves with endless external dribble, with endless external white noise. And this just becomes something that is so distracting and conflicting with ourselves that we become so confined to the external reality that we don't know how to go back within ourselves, because we're not realizing that everything that we're attracting within reality is coming from us. Every single person on this planet is experiencing a different Earth, is experiencing a different universe. And so if we can really start to vibe into that, we can really start to align to that, and realize that everything that I'm experiencing right now is basically what's going on inside me right now about how I feel about myself. So again, that's coming up here as we talk more about the law of attraction and the law of catalyst. So again, the law of karma is just being able to look into the idea of the beliefs that you hold within yourself, be them negative, be them positive. But again, this is a universal law, and in being so, it can be bypassed and it can be bent. Okay? That's the whole idea in regards to universal laws. Even though they have a very strong recognition and understanding of what they represent, they can be bypassed and they can be bent. And that really, again, comes down to the key of the matter here, which represents the heart space, which represents trust, which represents openness, which represents self-responsibility. Those are the bypasses. Now we're going to talk about the law of attraction. Again, probably the most popular law out of anything pertaining to the universe. And in many different ways, this is, again, a very, very harmonious law that can really benefit us, or it can be our worst nightmare. It all just depends in regards to what we're willing to attract. When we're just looking at the idea of attraction, we're just looking with magnetics. We're playing with the magnetics of thought. And that really is what the law of attraction basically is. If I think that all I'm going to be is just working an $8 an hour job, 9 to 5, and I don't really have that much future, and if that's basically the magnetics I'm playing with, then that's going to be my entire reality. My entire reality is going to be focused on the basis of that particular theme. That if I feel I'm a parent with 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and that my entire life is entirely focused on them and I don't matter, and it's all about everybody else, it's not just about my kids, it's about everybody else, and I just have to completely sacrifice myself and throw myself to the wolves and feel, hey, it's not about me, it's about everybody else. Your own personal philosophy is what you attract. So again, this comes down to, again, association with karma, association with equivalent exchange, association with free will. That whatever you decide to attract based upon what you have given value and deserving to, that is what will come. And as I say these words, it sounds like, oh, Brett, it's so simple. It's so easy to look at this particular thing. Like everything you say is simple. Yes, because guess what? Talk is cheap, right? It's when we actually try to bring this into action, when we actually try to walk the talk, that is the challenge, right? So being able to look into the idea of what we're attracting and walking the talk and saying, I'm going to align myself into becoming a healer. I'm going to align myself to be more of service and listening to my inner being. I'm going to attract myself to connect with other people and give them a helping hand as I start to develop myself and understand more about who I am. Fantastic. Now that you have attained a goal, now that you have pinpoint aiming in that way, now you need to start walking that line. You need to start walking that because, again, I got a lot of people that come to me and say, Brad, you know what? I got this huge revelation that's happened to me. I see myself as a healer. I channeled the Count of Saint Germain last night, or I channeled Archangel Michael, and he's telling me I'm a healer, and I'm so excited about doing a healer. I'm like, great. So what have you done so far? Oh, nothing. I'm just excited about it. Right? That's great. That's great that you're excited about it. But again, that's kind of just one of the 3 criteria that represents the law of attraction. So when you are basically really, really excited about something, you're placing your cosmic order, you're asking the universe, yes, I want to become a healer, yes, I want to be of service to looking into myself and being able to help other people along. Fantastic. Now you've placed your cosmic order. So now you need to start walking the talk. Now you need to start becoming the frequency. You need to start taking action in that principle. It is not, and I repeat this again, it is not about sitting on your couch and meditating and think that this is going to come to pass. All right? That's not the idea about what the law of attraction is. If we were basically master manifestors and we are able to just basically materialize things right out of thin air from a single thought, different story. Then yeah, absolutely, you could do that. But that's not what we're going through here. We are here in a very solid, very physical reality, and our actions determine our manifestations. So when you have the idea complex pertaining to an insightful form of inspiration that comes together, you've placed that cosmic order, now you're looking to become the vibration of that particular type of energy. And now what you're doing is you're attracting a group-based consciousness of magnetics that are representational to that particular attraction itself. And now you're going to be able to start receiving opportunities pertaining to that level of attraction. And that, again, this is where equivalent exchange comes together. In order to attain something of equal value must be given in return, right? So now you're looking into the idea that through attraction, I'm going to forgive the aspects of my feelings telling me that I can't do this. And this is where the inner quest comes from. Is being able to look inside yourself and realize, yes, I'm aligning with equivalent exchange. I'm being able to look into the areas that do not serve me. I'm looking into that mucky water in the glass, and I'm emptying that out. But I'm only able to empty it out as I listen to it. I'm not going to be in the thing, oh, this is disgusting mucky water, I'm just going to chuck it away. It's just going to basically manifest itself back into the glass because you haven't heard what the shadows are attempting to tell you. And what I'm about to say here may sound scary. It may sound frightening, but basically this is what's required in order for a person to achieve a true state of liberation. You need to shatter yourself. You need to break yourself down as much as you can, just like a firecracker has been placed in the center of your being and going... That's a pretty cool sound effect, actually. But just being able to explode yourself and shatter yourself. And being able to look back at every single piece that represents yourself and being able to harmonize with every single one of those pieces and building yourself back up from the ground up. That's what's required. That's the idea of true liberation, right? So we will have those particular forms of effects when we start going into these particular forms of karma, particular forms of negative connotation, where we feel that, what have I been holding on to for so much? I have to really look into the depths of that particular shadow. And the only way that you're ever going to be able to forgive a shadow is when you are humbled, is when you reach a state of humility and you are open to what that shadow is attempting to say. If you're mad at yourself because you used to be a smoker and you used to, completely, pollute your lungs with so much smoke, and you just couldn't forgive yourself for doing that, but the shadow is attempting to come through and telling you why you did this. So the more that you can be open and accepting and humbled between the idea of actually looking to what the shadow is saying and what you're feeling with yourself, this is what's going to help you to, again, gain that particular form of acknowledgement and attain a state of forgiveness. You have to give yourself permission to forgive yourself. This is really what it's all about. It's not about Joe Blow and wondering, when is he going to forgive me, because I'm never going to be able to move past this if he doesn't forgive me. It's not about other people forgiving you. It's about you forgiving yourself and you forgiving all the elements pertaining to yourself that allows this liberation to take place. So you need to break yourself down. You need to become humbled in regards to the shadows that you have swept under the rug, that you have placed in the corners, and saying, hey, you can't come out. I don't want to see myself as you. I can't imagine myself as you. So you stay in the corner. You stay under the rug, and I don't want to look at you, right? And that's what keeps these shadows together within our space. And they're constantly trying to ask ourselves again, can you forgive me? Can you forgive me? Let's talk. Let's have a communication here. Let's negotiate something. Let's try and bring ourselves back into harmony. That's what the shadows are attempting to tell you. If all that's on your mind is love and light and rainbows and whiskers on kittens, right? That's where you're going to have the biggest challenge, is feeling that I only want to look at the light. Then you're missing the entire point of being on this planet. You really need to look into the idea that you are actually more receptive to looking at darkness and your shadows rather than looking at the light. This is going back to my video that I talked about, shadow worker before light worker, right? So being able to look in the idea of how well you can transcend your shadows and align into the frequency of being humbled so that they can communicate with you. Okay? So I just wanted to add that little tidbit pertaining to, again, what helps you in regards to attraction that serves. So again, looking into the three key fundamentals here, the law of attraction, asking, becoming the vibration, and then being able to receive the opportunities to come together. Now, just because you receive an opportunity does not mean that the manifestation really is coming to pass. You're basically still just walking down a highway, so to speak. You're walking down a path, and that the idea of being able to achieve a liberation, being able to achieve a result pertaining to that particular path is what's going to grant a version pertaining to what you have asked for. And that's, again, how the law of attraction works, because it's not about feeling that we have to 100% exactly, identically get what we asked for. No. You're going to get a version of something that is around the lines of what you have asked for. The reason being is because we are functioning in a co-creatorship. Yes, we are experiencing our own reality, but we're sharing the space with 7 billion other co-creators. And so that there needs to be filters in place. And so you are going to get a rendition in regards to that particular type of attraction that you've asked for. Okay? So that's law of attraction, and being able to look into that we're just playing together with thought magnetics, and we are applying with what we know. Well, what's the law of catalyst? Well, this is actually something that has not been talked about by anybody else. This is actually kind of like a sub-law that I've discovered within the law of attraction. And basically what this is representing is the relationship pertaining to an element contained within a certain group-based attraction. So the law of catalyst, like I was talking about earlier, can represent the idea of the elements of how we perceive people, about how people are looking at us and how they decide to interact with us. And basically all it is us looking back at ourselves through the perspective of these people that are seeing us as we see ourselves through them. Right? Kind of sounds a little bit, hazy there, but that's basically how it works. Is that when a person is looking back at you, it's you looking back at you through the archetype of the personality that that person possesses. Right? That's the law of catalyst. That's being able to look into the deeper relationships and see exactly how the elements within the law of attraction are actually starting to look back at you, how they perceive you by you perceiving yourself. Well, does this mean that if I really am, again, starting to harmonize myself, starting to look into the heart space and starting to walk that particular talk with the heart space, that I won't attract any more negative people in my life? No. You will still attract negative people in your life, but it will not bother you pertaining to the type of people that they are, because you understand exactly what they're going through and you understand the perspectives that they are in. And so it's more so in the idea of saying that it's not always going to be, again, floating around and dancing on rainbows, right? When you're going into the heart path, you understand more about the nature of forgiveness. You are humbled before reality. And this is basically what the law of catalyst is attempting to teach you. Can you be humbled in the state of reality? It's not feeling that people are treading or walking all over you, and it's not feeling that you have to be extremely dominant, but it's being able to realize that the mechanics pertaining to reality is happening in such a way that you recognize it. So you can still attract negative-based people, people who feel very sour about their day, people who feel that they're just being overwhelmed and they don't know where to turn, etc. You will attract people like that. It does not matter if you're on a 100% heart path or not. That will happen. But you will understand the mechanisms in regards to why they attract what they attract. And it will not basically bother you pertaining to a person who may be connotatively negative. And of course, you will always want to lend a helping hand. You will always want to assist a person like that. But it's not so much in the idea of saying that I must assist this person and they must see it the way that I do. No, because there is a humility there. So you are basically, again, becoming an intuitive human. And this is basically a fourth density principle. This is what it is to be an advanced human being, is to look into the idea where you are purely living your life intuitively. Everything is intuition. Everything is psychic ability. Everything represents the idea of how you are in flow. And the idea is that you have transcended the idea of a personality in regards to an ego construct into more into an ego harmonized flow construct, which means that you are basically aligning yourself to everything that is being shared together with flow. All I can say is I'm starting to get onto that path. There's still, again, a lot of work for me to do, of course, relating to this. But being able to have conversations where I attempt not to bring thought into it. And it's basically just being able to let the flow speak for itself. And that can be a challenge at times because there's these allures that we get saying, oh, okay, here's a person talking about a sports game, or here's a person talking about a favorite team, or here's a person that's talking about maybe an old hobby that I really liked, playing basketball or martial arts or yoga or something like that. And you want to get back into that thought process. Yeah, let's talk about yoga, let's talk about basketball, etc., right? And that can be a challenge. And it's not to say that you're punishing yourself because you're doing that, but it's more so in the idea that you're just reminding yourself, okay, I engaged in a lot of that, very kind of heavy self-conversation today, but you know what? It was divine in its own way, and it's helping me to realize more about, what I need to work on with myself. But again, it's all based upon self-perspective of what you feel benefits you and what doesn't. For me, if it's a person talking about yoga and I want to indulge into yoga as well too and talk about it as I love it a lot, then sometimes there can be thought aspects that come together in that. Even in some residues pertaining to what I'm doing here in this broadcast, sometimes can bring up thought. So again, thought will always be a constant visitor. But the good news is that if you do have thought as a constant visitor, let it be a visitor and not a permanent resident, right? So if you feel that a thought's coming through, let the thought express itself through you and let it see kind of like a small branch sailing down a river, right? It's just going to come right through you, and it'll come right back out. Hey, thank you so much, thought, for visiting me. May it be well with you, right? It's okay to think thoughts. But basically what's being said here is that there is more of the essence of yourself that is moving into flow, that is letting yourself actually have the mind of the universe. You're becoming the reality body. This is, again, what Rainbow Wisdom talks about, is being able to look into the idea of how you are becoming the reality body rather than the idea of the self body. So the self body is just looking to transcend to where reality is all around them. Again, as animals are still very much connected to nature in symbiosis, dogs will still bark at you. Cats will still meow at you. Lions will still roar at you, right? And so they do have those particular types of physical traits, those physical attributes, those physical defenses, right? You will too. But it's more being able to understand that everything that serves together with the self is part of the greater whole. And that's the mentality to really look at in this way. So again, in summary, The law of catalyst represents the personalized reflection of relationship in everything that represents the group of attraction that you are bringing into yourself. Okay? So that's the law of catalyst. The law of love. Okay? So we basically have the law of love, the law of light. So what is it to be love? To be love is truly to be creative, to truly understand acceptance, to really accept, allow, appreciate, and explore and create. And that's what we do. The law of love, again, is something that's going to be with us for many dimensions to come, with many shifts to come. But there is, in that sense, a connection past the idea of love and a connection past the idea of light. And that's coming into now and forever. That's coming into oneness, right? So beyond the idea that I am not a loving being, I am simply one. We are simply one. We are simply now. We are simply forever, right? And being able to look in that is the idea that is actually a transcendence past feeling, where you are just stillness in that particular degree. And that's the transcendence past love and light. So when we're looking at the idea of love, we're looking at the idea about how we can appreciate, how we can allow, how we can respect, how we can create, how we can manifest, how we are functioning as creator consciousness. And so love and light basically represent the particular life force pertaining to everything representing creation. If we're looking at the idea of light, we're looking at the idea to how information travels. We're looking into the idea of all of these codes, all of this insight, the mind itself. It's the mind's cords that are basically spread throughout the entire universe when we're looking at light. So light basically is the synapses or the neurological pathways pertaining to the universal mind. That's representing all of this information, all of this insight that we receive. And it's just information beyond imagination. And so love and light are basically representing the creative capacity principles pertaining to how we understand the mind, how we understand our souls, how we understand our spirit, and connecting together in that form of love and light so that we can be creative, so that we can be knowledgeable, so that we can become wise, so that we can become appreciative, so that we truly can become creator consciousness. And that's the idea with love and light. Okay? Of course, we have the law of cause and effect, right? So being able to function together within continuity, that for every action comes an equal opposite reaction, right? Very true. And again, that's part of operating within a planet of free will, of equivalent exchange, of karma, of attraction, of love, of light. And we get cause and effect. Love and light, again, branching itself together in condensation, in condensing, together into this realm to help us understand what is the knowledge available, what is the creation available within this particular realm and plane. So the cause and effect itself representing that idea of action and reaction. So yes, this again represents that. And of course, it can be bypassed because again, we can look in the idea where we're becoming more multidimensional. We're moving more into nonlinear consciousness. And cause and effect doesn't have so much of a play because now you are able to bend the aspects pertaining to linearity. When you're functioning in non-linearity, you can now start to go right to the afternoon, right to the morning, right to the evening, right to yesterday, right to last week, etc. So basically the idea of the continuity of cause and effect no longer apply. Basically you're looking into the idea that you are becoming an observational format of event. And so now you're looking at being an observer. Now you're looking at being a watcher. And that's basically what the watchers will do. They will bypass cause and effect, but their own particular aspect is simply observation, and they're not generating impact. When we're looking at other particular forms of beings, such as elementals, within different forms of dimensional planes, they do not actually exist within cause and effect because they act more like a force of nature. Our own particular form of nature itself upon this planet, in regards to the elements, etc., are not subject to the law of cause and effect. Cause and effect can only be established by creators. So only creators can actually generate cause and effect. Other particular forms that represent elements or represent watchers or represent observers are not initiated in regards to functioning together within a reality of cause and effect. This is why they often remain hidden. And the only reason at times they may come through is because they're willing to share a co-creation together with the creator that grants a cause and effect in regards to their perspective as a creator, right? So that's kind of giving a little bit more of an extra tidbit there. Even with a lot of particular beings that go beyond our world, that function in different realities and different dimensions of consciousness, are not subject to cause and effect because, again, they play a part in regards to being a force of nature. cause and effect determines impact. And that's basically the impact or the imprint that we live in reality because we are creators. We are creating our particular perspectives through reality. In order for that to happen, creation needs to be generated in this way, in this format of reality, through the idea of cause and effect, because we're starting to see much more of the fruits in regards to our action that develops reaction, right? So cause and effect is the product in regards to perspective creation, okay? And again, that can be bent by being a watcher, by being an observer, by being an elemental, by moving past the idea that you are attempting to bring imprint or impact in regards to the catalyst, representing that of continuity and causality altogether. So again, all of these particular laws that we have been talking about here on the broadcast today are bendable and are able to be really malleable and being able to be bypassed. But again, they all represent primordial distortions pertaining to the two understandings, the law of now and forever, or the understanding, I should say, of now and forever, and the understanding of one is all and all is one. Okay? So these are basically the distortions that move together in that particular way. And they're called distortions is because they are not pure. The reason being is because they are, again, operating together within certain branches about how the densities and the dimensions continue to create these convergences, or in that sense, separations, through the idea of becoming more physical, more solid, more tangible in that particular way. So as we exist in such realities and functioning together within these universal principles themselves must be distorted in their own way because we are functioning within realities of distortion. So as long as we're operating within a physical plane, within an astral plane, etc., these are all different planes and levels as how we are looking into layers of creation. And so as long as we're only looking at creation in layers, we're looking at distortion. The only time that there is purification is when we are looking at wholeness, is when we're looking at the purity of everything that is as one. And that can be very, very challenging for us to do because we still don't understand the universe. We still don't understand exactly how the universe binds together with us. We still don't understand the amount of civilizations out there. We still don't really understand the principle about how many other civilizations are helping us out there and why. We still don't really understand much about the elemental realms in regards to how this particular realm came about, what they're doing, how they're able to assist us, and why they are becoming observers and watchers. There's so much that we still do not understand. But you know what? That's okay. We only have forever to learn. We only have forever to adapt. We only have forever to align. And that's basically our journey here as we're unfolding here and taking a look at the primordial substances to life that represent the idea of these laws, which are, again, primordial, yet still interchangeable and still bendable and still malleable in that particular way, that are all together in consortium, in convergence to the two understandings. The law of one, or the understanding of one. This is the thing, as I keep calling them laws, but they are understandings of one and the understandings of now and forever. So again, that's what they branch themselves together with. So again, that is the universal laws, primordial substances of life. And again, we really have just kind of touched the surface with this. There's so much more that we can go into this, but we're going to leave it as it is for now. And perhaps I'll be looking into doing more videos with this. And of course, we can always talk about this in sessions and in other ways of interaction as well. All right, guys, so thank you so much for tuning into the broadcast today. We're down to about our last 30 to 35 minutes here, so we're going to go ahead and start opening up the lines. If anybody would like to call in, as I'm going to be channeling Adronis here in the next couple of minutes. And if you guys do have questions that you want to call in and ask Adronis, or just to say hello to him, you're more than welcome to. Again, the guest call-in number is 347-215-8586. That's 347-215-8586. So basically, starting in about the last half hour to 35 minutes of the show, I just get into the state here and bring Adronis through. Sometimes I'll get him just to kind of elaborate, sometimes on the theme that we'll talk about. And of course, as people start to come in and being able to call in and ask Adronis some questions, then there's kind of a Q&A session that takes place. So again, while we're waiting for any callers that would like to call in today, again, the announcements is that, again, the free psychic development class starts Saturday on the 16th at 2 p.m. Pacific. And of course, the Adronis and RDF Galactic Community Dual Channeling starts Sunday, May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So again, feel free to go to realitywhisperer.com and check that out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Adronis in now, and he's just going to give some enlightenment pertaining to the universal laws in regards to his own perspective. Once he is finished, then I'll come back to and just see if there's any particular forms of callers on the line. We are getting some callers right now, so I just asked those callers, just give me a few minutes, as Adronis is going to come through, give a brief presentation, just a very brief look into the universal laws, and then we'll be going right into the phone lines. Okay, so I'm just going to take a moment now to connect with Adronis, and we'll get started. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast being brought forward through your Internet's collective consciousness. We thank you once again for this interaction, and we will give our brief take, as it were, pertaining to the idea of the universal laws. Again, as the conduit has shared, that the idea pertaining to the universal laws are all subjugated in regards to the properties of distortion, in regards to how far creation has, in that sense, stretched itself out. So as it starts to funnel its roots together through different inventions pertaining to dimensionality, pertaining to density, pertaining to experience, expression, and feeling, all these particular forms of associative laws that keep together, in that sense, the proverbial glue that allows these dimensions and densities to function together within the fabrication of creation, inundate the allowance pertaining to many of these universal laws that become in effect. Now, the universal law simply represents the idea of the principle to the collective, the principle that represents your own self that is, again, in coherent means, in translation, that also which represents the collective means. So basically, that represents is that when you are operating together within, for the example of free will, not only are you experiencing this in regards to the effect of your own singular reality, but it is also becoming much more projected to the idea of collective consciousness awareness. But it is only bypassed in regards to that of the singular, rather than the idea of the collective, only until there has been a breach point, to where the collective consciousness has reached a particular form of percentage that allows the free will to actually be breached. In many occasions, this often requires approximately 60% of the population to actually breach the idea of the natural understanding that free will therefore becomes rendered inert based upon the idea of the transcendence of it. And therefore, you are operating more within a higher density plateau to where such universal laws no longer represent their grip pertaining to, shall we say, such plateaus of developed consciousness that again are being cycled singularly, but also being referenced together collectively, to where the transformation and the theme of the planet is therefore growing into a higher state of evolution. Again, through the approximation of the 60% consensus representing the idea of this breach. This is where, again, the universal law pertaining to such an instance, such as free will, such as karma, etc., is now in that sense attempting to be bypassed. There are particular planets that exist that in that sense do not even function together with the idea of the feeling of an attraction. The idea of the attraction, again, is that it no longer operates within the state of choice. So everything that is operated together is the naturalness pertaining to the law of how one truly wishes to function and develop themselves together into advancement. And so again, the universal law is bent upon the idea of relativity in regards to how far a singular creation, a singular being, an entity themselves can transcend such ideas to move themselves more into the capacity of the bypass that is in representation to the transcendence of such a universal law. So we understand this may be somewhat confusing, but understand that as stated, these universal laws can be bent, they can be bypassed. It is not in your own near future that many of these particular forms of laws are being bypassed, but not for, in that sense, quite some time down the road. However, it is very possible that your own species collectively will eventually transcend past the idea of functioning on a free will planet and operate more within the idea of naturalness, of flow, of heart, of intuition. So we thank you once again for this brief conversation representing that of the universal laws, the primordial substances to life. We will now allow ourselves to return to the conduit and begin a question and answer period with all of those who wish to share their insight with us today. Thank you very much, and we now return to the conduit. One moment, please. Okay, so we have one caller on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in this caller here. Okay, it's still spinning. Okay, there we go. Area code 978. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. Who are we speaking with?
Josephine.
Josephine?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Josephine. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Great. Excellent. Did you have a question?
I was just on the call listening. I really didn't have a specific question.
Oh, okay. So you're just tuning into the call. Okay. No problem. No problem at all. But hope you're enjoying the show tonight, so thank you so much for being on the call.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Again, so if you guys feel free to tune in. We did have another caller, but I guess they may have dropped out. Again, the guest call-in number is 347-215-8586. That's 347-215-8586. So again, while we're waiting for other callers, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be hosting another Rainbow Wisdom radio broadcast, and this one is going to be more about the God and Goddess relationship. So looking more into the partnership pertaining to God and Goddess, and looking into how that divine natural relationship is coming together. So we're going to be looking a lot more into partnerships, into counterparts, divine relationships. That's going to be the focus of next week's show, or next 2 weeks' show, I should say. Okay, so we have another caller here, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring them on the line. Area code 972. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Who am I speaking with?
Okay. This is Butterfly.
Butterfly. Hello, Butterfly.
Hello. I'm trying to step out to another place so I can hear.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you for the segment today. It's very informative and it's very helpful for me as far as where the state I'm in at this time. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I don't know if it's a question, but when you're talking about, let's see how to put it, something I've personally been going through, understanding the mirror effect. And just as you stated, was talking about everything that is within our life. It's basically an imagery of how we're feeling, or just another aspect of ourselves.
Yes.
To teach us something. Is that not correct?
Yep. That's very correct, And so this is basically falling within law of attraction and law of catalyst. So the certain elements that you discover within your life that may be people telling you, maybe negative things about yourself or positive things about yourself, what they represent as a personality is basically coming back to you as that particular kind of personality about how you see yourself.
Is that even, that's also in the male aspect of yourself? Like
everything,
Okay,
yes.
That's
pertaining
something
pertaining to masculine and feminine altogether as well. And masculine and feminine can have many different forms. We can have the nurturer, we can have the creator, we can have the grounder, we can have the logical person, right? And even in all those particular aspects, they can just represent increments or pieces of masculine and feminine energy together. Yeah.
So is that just like seeing the way I was thinking about it today? It was like someone that from my past came back into my life, and for me, I internalized it and I saw it like, what am I supposed to see? What is it in my male aspect of me that this individual person is showing me that needs to be balanced within myself? Like that's the way I digested it.
Right. So how did this person act? How did this person act specifically to you? Do you feel? It was
love, but it was also a feeling of incompletion.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me ask myself, like, what is it inside of me, in my male aspect of me, that feels incomplete?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the feeling I got, like the imagery of it. I was like, I wonder, is that the same? That sounds like to me like the same concept of what you were speaking.
Yes.
So it kind of confirms something to me.
Exactly. Yeah,
okay.
As you hear this person speak to you, as you're within this presence of this person, again, a lot of particular thoughts will start to appear. It may feel, how this person is maybe well put together. Maybe they've really done some great stuff in their life, and it may cause you to reflect back into your own life and saying, why wasn't I able to do something like that? How was this person able to do that? So even something in that particular notion can give you the idea of saying that this is your self-feeling, that you have some type of inadequacy because of what this person is sharing that they're up to. Oh, I just went to go and travel to Jamaica, and I went to the Barbados, and I did all this traveling, and I feel so alive. Oh, this person is so lucky. They got to travel the world, and I've just been sitting in the city for years. So it's basically looking at the idea that there's this catalyst that's coming back and saying, well, you know what? You can become an aspect pertaining to what this person represents to you as well, but you still are basically questioning the beliefs that you're carrying to feel, no, I'm just going to be a local person here, right? So it's helping you to look into a development of yourself to see how far you can actually go. As you attract a person in this life, you can actually become a type of version of that person if you so wish to.
Okay, well, that was my, I guess, question.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Butterfly, for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good day.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
Okay, great. So we have another caller here on the line. So we'll go ahead and open up their line here. Okay, we have area code 514. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Yes, hello. My name is Catalina.
Hello, Papalina. How are you tonight?
It's Catalina. So good. I'm glad to hear you. I enjoy the event.
Great. Do you have a question?
One question. I guess that the laws that can be, let's say, banned, but I guess the only one that's really overruled the other laws could be the law self. So can you say something more about it?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing as well, too, because the law of self really just exists within all of these laws that we were particularly talking about. So the self itself, I guess if you could put it in that way, represents the idea of an archetype consciousness. It really is being able to look at our own ego and realize that we do not have an ego, even though we are experiencing an ego. And so the whole idea is being able to transcend the self to realize that the ego that we have is going to be in alliance with ourselves, that we're actually able to harmonize the idea of what we feel we need to do. And what really fuels the ego pertaining to self is the idea of logic, is in the idea of continuity and feeling that everything really is just physical and external and attempting to acknowledge the five senses and existing within external reality. So what really is able to harmonize the ego is when you can work together with it to actually help it to understand that there is an inner world and that there is an inner universe and that everything that you're going through is more connotative to the point of feeling rather than the idea of logic. It's not to say that logic is bad in any way. It certainly has a certain point. Logic is a grounding mechanism, and we certainly do use logic to ground, to keep ourselves anchored in this reality, and that's a wonderful thing. But what we have done as a species is we've felt that logic itself is trying to become the assertive form. It's attempting to be the total principle pertaining to this reality, and that's just not, unfortunately, how it works. So the whole key here is that when we can align the ego to become more in harmony with our own inner reality, with ourselves as beings of high consciousness, beings of spirit, and being able to work together where the ego is in alliance with ourselves by not, in that sense, having to put up its dukes or pulling a tug of war on us, and being able to say that it's working alongside with us to our expansion. we no longer function as a self. We're now becoming symbiotic. And the greatest example of this is being able to look at very small children or animals, and that they are basically, have some type of ego because they are grounded in this reality and they're playing with this reality. But their ego is not telling them the idea of feeling that there needs to be some type of conflict. There needs to be the ego that needs to stay in charge, and that we need to do this, that, and the other thing, and that's all there is pertaining to logic. So it's really being able to look at the very young children and the animals. And when you really look at that, you understand that that is ego in harmony. That's the idea to where ego is simply serving as a grounding device so that we can function in this reality. So when we really start to harmonize together like the animals, like the little children, and look into exactly how the ego is meant to benefit us in that way, that really is the transcendence of the self, because now you're working more together in a state of symbiotic consciousness. And that's moving more into what is known as the fourth density principle, which means that where humanity is going, it's going to become an advanced human being, which means that it's more so looking into the idea of utilizing heart-based understanding, flow, and natural intuition to guide their life, rather than the idea of being confused based on putting so much power and so much energy in regards to physical ego that's incapable of guiding you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's awesome. Awesome. So in that case, what's the difference between awareness and feeling?
Awareness and which?
And feeling.
And seeing? Well, it all depends
like
upon. Like seeing, like vision.
No, feeling like sentiments. Like
feeling. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, feeling. Yeah. Sorry, it's the microphone here. Feeling, okay. So basically awareness and feeling, what is the difference? Well, feeling itself is basically the interpretation of awareness in regards to how we perceive. So feeling would be the idea of perception. It's basically seeing how we are perceiving that reality around that is coming through the complement pertaining to feeling. So it's the interface of how we understand reality that feeling works. When we're coming into complete raw awareness, we transcend beyond feeling because we are simply all that is. So when we look into the idea of looking into the wholeness of something rather than the sum of the parts, when you're looking at the sum of its parts, you're utilizing feeling to interpret that. When you realize you are simply isness, you are all that is, then that basically represents the wholeness pertaining to awareness. So awareness is giving you the construct of the all, and feeling is the translation within awareness for us to function together within a reality of perception. So we're looking at perception as feeling, and we're looking at awareness in totality of all that is within the whole.
Oh, okay. Really awesome. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much. Take care. All right, guys. So if there are anybody else that would like to call in tonight, again, call-in number is 347-215-8586. We do have a few minutes left on the show here tonight. Again, 347-215-8586. So again, this is a really, really fascinating topic, and really being able to look at the universal laws. There may be people asking, well, Brad, how do you know a lot of this stuff? How does this come together into you? It really just comes to flow. Like, I'm not trying to think about, what's being read in books. The funny thing is I hardly read books. Many of the books I've read, has only been a few and far in between, with very, very select books. So I don't really read that much. I love to read, of course, and I love to write. But a lot of this particular type of information really just comes together through flowing, through catalyst in that particular way as well. And it's just a fun ride of being able to ride the connection to flow. Okay, so I think we have two other callers here, so I'll see if I can bring in the first one here. Area code 807. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hi, Stuart Hardy. How are you, Brad?
Hi, Stuart. Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I had a question for Adronis.
Okay, sure.
What would be the right direction to go in the water imprint theory for the cosmic consciousness family?
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and I'll bring Adronis in, and he can provide some information with that. One moment. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings. Thank you very much, Stuart, for your question. Your question represents the idea of the water imprint theory, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Well, understand that the water imprint theory really isn't a theorem, but in that sense is actually a fact. You have discovered through your own, in that sense, natural sciences and natural research that memory is held together within water, and that water truly is the principle in regards to life as you understand life to be. And so the whole idea here is that you are dealing with factualism rather than the idea of theoryism. The whole idea, again, is the reason why many of these things do not fall into fact is because they would be convoluted in regards to the ideas of other theories pertaining to other scientists, other philosophers, other particular forms of doctors in that way that have worked together in developing their own, shall we say, form of understanding pertaining to how reality works. And so it, in that sense, would be a warring conflict. The whole idea here is that water itself, in regards to its tracing of imprint, is the element to how all life is established. Your water is basically the code that your own body requires in order for it to function. It is not just through the idea of, in that sense, a substance of liquid. It is very much memory. It is basically helping to fuel everything contained within your body, from your DNA, from your energy, from your own consciousness together to house together within the body. And so water itself represents the imprints pertaining to thought as it holds memory together within the substance of water itself. And so water simply represents that living mirror. It is the mirror of life. It is the memory of life to make life what it is in regards to harmonious creation.
Wow. That's awesome.
All right.
From that
Anything
down.
else?
Oh, no. Give me a lot. Yeah.
We thank you very much for your question. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay. Bye now.
All right. Thank you very much, Stuart. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next caller here. Let me see if I can remember who it was. I think it was this one. Area code 817. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hi, Brad. This is Michelle Walling with N5D. How are you?
Michelle. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, I've had a lot of people talking about the flat Earth theory, and I wondered if you had brought that up with Adronis before about, as a multidimensional being. I wonder, Earth itself is multidimensional, and it kind of dawned on me yesterday. I wondered if the flat Earth, if that is seen in one of the, as a dimensional thing. And maybe in other dimensions it's not flat. Does that make sense?
Yes, completely. Why don't I go ahead and bring Adronis in, and he can share you more about this concept. So I'll just do one moment.
Okay. Thank you.
We are here, and we thank you very much, Michelle, for your question. Pertaining to the idea of your flat Earth theory in that way, we understand that, again, why many people feel that there are, in that sense, the feeling of a flat Earth in regards to the idea of perspective. Now, it is, of course, no surprise that, yes, in other particular forms of dimensions and other particular forms of densities, that you can, in that sense, operate within such planetoids that may represent, in that sense, two-dimensional consciousness, or even, in that sense, transformations in regards to the equilibrium pertaining to, shall we say, the capacity and the integrity representing such a spheroid, or in that sense, other than spheroid, form of nature regarding a planet. In regards to how it works and operates together within your reality, your planet is indeed spherical. Your moon is indeed spherical. All planets contained within your star system are indeed spherical. We understand that much in regards to debate representing the idea of why the feeling of the planet may be flat is because of the lay of the land. The feeling that the land itself appears flat in regards to looking at railroads, in regards to how they, in that sense, start to intersect themselves throughout the countries and appear as if they're straight. This is more so in the idea of the illusionary effect in regards to how the land appears upon your planet as you trace it out in regards to such a construct like a railroad. Now, in that sense, yes, the land itself may hold some type of flatness or feeling the appearance of flatness, but its own flatness in that sense is actually worked together in a certain capacity about how the Earth operates in regards to its constant pertaining to gravity. And so the whole idea here is that even though something may appear flat, pertaining to your own planet in regards to, shall we say, development of railroads, or being able to, in that sense, go from one side of the country to another and still feel that something is flat. This is all part of the continuity in regards to keeping the landmass within that particular equilibrium afloat together within a spheroid atmosphere. And this is basically, in that sense, the byproduct, the connection pertaining to gravity and functioning together within this way, even though the land itself appears flat. Its flatness is contained within the spherical planetoid that represents your Earth. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, and so when we ground to the planet, when we want to ground to Gaia's consciousness,
yes.
and we can then grounding to the core of the planet, that makes more sense. You know, because if the Earth was flat, it would be really hard to imagine grounding to the core of the planet.
Correct. Your planet could not function as a flat surface. It simply couldn't function in that way. It would not be able to, in that sense, generate the type of life that is upon its surface. So again, it's very similar to the idea of, shall we say, certain forms of ideas of mirror effects, that something appears a certain way, but in that sense, there is a science behind it. And the science here simply represents the idea of gravitation, and in the idea of the energy pertaining to the atmospheric spheroid form pertaining to your planet that makes it appear that certain things upon your surface are flat. But you have also discovered that as you start to dig deeper into the Earth, you're actually discovering that the depths in regards to what is being digged through the Earth is actually representing more of a sphere rather than the idea of a flat surface. So this is, again, representing the other particular aspect in that sense. As you fly a plane from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere and actually crisscross in that way, you can actually start to feel the energies pertaining to that of a planetoid surface of spheroid consciousness, of spheroid design. And so, again, there are other particular factors that are not being quite addressed, other than the idea of, in that sense, certain forms of elements pertaining to illusion that make feel that the Earth itself is flat, when in fact it is spherical.
And it is hollow. Is that correct?
Yes and no, not really. Now, the whole idea here is that there are hollow vaults contained within your planet. It would be very much similar to the idea of asking that if all the fluids within your body were drained out, would there be hollow forms of canals within your body? Yes, there would be. But it is not so much in a saying that you yourself are particularly hollow. You are filled with fluid. You are filled with essential chemicals and, in that sense, other particular bonds that allow your body to function in this way. There really is no hollow Earth in that way, although there is an inner Earth. There are, in that sense, yes, northern and southern polar openings that open together in the different forms of dimensionality to go within the planet. But the whole idea here is that this generates such an intense magnetic field that many other people upon your planet that attempted to enter the northern and southern cavities pertaining to these inner Earth openings were not able to return. It is not basically compatible at this time for human life. It is more so in the idea of the in and outflow flux in regards to magnetic current. And so the whole idea here is that, yes, there are hollow openings, but within the Earth in that sense is a different journey within itself. It truly does represent in that sense an embodiment pertaining to different fluids, to different forms of electron flow, to different, in that sense, sun that actually exists within your own planet as well. But again, much in regards to the cavities that reflect together within the Earth are, in that sense, very similar to the construct of your organs in a certain way, in that sense, fluidic, contained together in wholeness of body.
Cool. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. We thank you very much for your question. We now return to the conduit. All right. Thank you very much, Michelle, for calling. No problem. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so we'll go ahead now and take another caller here. All right. Well, we have 111-111-1111. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hello. Is this me?
This is you.
Okay, great. So my question is, about a year ago, I started seeing... sorry. My name is Yana.
Hello, Yana.
Hi. How are you? So my question is, about a year ago, I started seeing visually energies that I didn't see previously. And among the different ways that it manifests, there's a particular constellation what I see is groups of circles, and in a way I've described them as plasmid orbs, but really they're a consistency somewhere between a gas and a liquid, and they kind of float around. They follow my vision wherever I'm gazing, and they have usually a blackish outline, and are roughly the size of anywhere from 1 millimeter to over a centimeter. So I'm curious as to if there's a particular energy associated with this, and if there is there a way I can use them, or for what purpose are they there, and why can I see them?
Yeah, there's many different forms pertaining to like these kind of miniature plasmic orbs in that way. Some of them can actually represent the idea of spirit. Some of them can actually represent particles of perspective relating to spiritual beings that can be around you. Others can actually represent thought forms, actually being able to sense certain forms of thought forms within your space. So as you become more naturally clairvoyant and start to open yourself up, there's many different forms of possibilities relating to this. One of the particular forms to recommend here is being able to talk to the orbs, and feeling that if you can get into a meditation state while they are around, being able to envision them as they appear before you, and being able to just make a call to them. And what they'll do is they'll actually be able to give you information or respond back to you in regards to their nature. A lot of it in that sense can even represent the idea of blessing, that you are receiving higher spiritual energy together in these forms of particles or in these forms of spheres that are basically surrounding you and blessing you as nature spirits, as spiritual beings, etc. But they can also represent the idea of thought forms. They can even represent technologies as well, too, that are being utilized by different forms of civilizations. So there's many different things that they can represent, but the whole key is really just going into meditation, and just the next time you feel that they're around, having a conversation with them and just asking in regards to saying, hello, what can I do for you? What might you be in that sense? And allowing them to have a conversation with you in that way.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Great. Thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're going to move on to our last caller. We basically got about 3 minutes left, so let's see what this caller has to say. Let's move into area code 413. You are live with Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi. My name is Renee, and I have a question for you about compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, I've always thought of myself as a compassionate person, but in the last year or so, I've kind of realized more about that greater compassion, that greater sense of like unconditional loving compassion. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, I have a hard time, I guess, with grounding that into living from that place, because I feel like I have a tendency to see people suffering and want to help them, lift them out of the suffering.
Right.
But I don't know how to do that from a place of just being, from that space of love and that space of compassion, instead of fear and worry of trying to help them out.
Yeah, and since we only have about a minute left, I can kind of give you a bit of an elevator version of it. Basically, when we're looking into the idea of compassion, it's basically being able to, again, move that into a state of humility, that you want to do so much for people, you want to do so much for them, and feeling that here I am as a compassionate spirit, here I am as a compassionate being, and I want to be able to help those particular people in pain. But basically the key here is the more that you can become the example of what you feel you have done to transcend that pain yourself, the more you are becoming the ultimate example for how those people are actually now able to see a realization through you in how they can actually, in regards to how they can actually connect with that themselves. So by you becoming the example of the idea of compassion, of the idea of you being the example of being able to move past these painful states, you are basically being the particular service facilitator to helping them out further. So this is really what I can only share with you right now because we're almost out of time. But I want to thank you so much, Renee, for contacting me. And please feel free to drop me a line, and maybe we can talk more about this as well, too. But thank you so much for calling in.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Yes, where does the time go? I tell you, it's crazy. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show today. Thank you so much, everybody, for calling in. For the callers here, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into the broadcast or, again, watching it on archive. We will be back in 2 weeks' time for another Rainbow Wisdom Radio episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you in 2 weeks' time. Take care. Much love, and may it be well with you. Namaste. Thank you for tuning in to Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Intro and outro theme, Spirals, performed by Angelina Bentley and the Cosmic Party. www.cosmicparty.com. Please continue to support the Enlightenment Evolution Network so that we may continue to provide original, educational, and inspirational programming. To donate to our network, please visit www.trebchanneling.com. Also, feel free to visit my website for private sessions, Akashic record readings, light circuitry, attunements, digital download courses, online classrooms, personal interaction with Adronis, and much more. www.realitywhisperer.com. Thank you for listening, and I will speak to you again next time on Rainbow Wisdom Radio. Namaste, and may it be well with you.